Hello, everyone. I'm Brainerd Carey, Director of Praxis Center, and I want to talk a little bit today about stories, right? Weird stories, crazy stories, stories that sell. What is your story? This is important in terms of your art, right? What are the stories that you tell? Because this is what marketing in general is about, right? A story of some kind, and it could be a weird story, it could be a crazy story, whatever the story is, something that draws people in, right? We hear that a lot, probably from other people who are talking to artists about how to build their careers or how to do more professional things. They often say, "Tell your story." And telling your story is good, but you could tell a lot of other stories. You could make up stories. Again, it can be weird, crazy, whatever you want, but it doesn't have to be like your personal story. I'm an artist and I started here and moved on to this and this and this, and it doesn't have to be a kind of literal personal story. It can be a made up story. And that made up story should be something that generates interest and attention, right? So one kind of famous made up story like that is by the late artist Joseph Beuys. Joseph Beuys is a German artist, and he said while he was flying for the German army, essentially, he was shot down. His plane was shot down, and when he crashed, his co-pilot was instantly killed, and he flew through the windshield of the plane, landed in the snow, and was unconscious. Right, plane crash, unconscious, and it was in the forest where nobody could find him, and there wasn't anybody there. But he said there were some nomads there, some Tartars in the Crimean forest, and he said, and they came by and they found him, and what they did was, he was bleeding because he had shrapnel in his body, and and he was, unconscious. So he said they took me and they carried me through the snow on some kind of sled apparatus, and he said, and then they wrapped me in animal fat, and then they put a felt kind of blanket around me, and they kept me warm that way. And he said, I learned the word water, which was voda, because they kept just giving me a little water to drink, and eventually I came back, and the I was recovered, right, and I was retrieved by the army. So this is an incredible story, right? But not only is it kind of like, wow, that's the Tartars, you were wrapped in fat. What is that? That then his work, which is also about, it looks very abstract, but there's elements of fat in it, like using different kinds of fats, oils, and there's things like sleds, and there's aspects that relate to survival. You realize, some of his work is about survival. But that's a crazy story, right? It's a crazy story and it's a weird story. So what I'm saying is, telling stories is important and it's memorable. I've heard that story about Joseph Beuys several times. I've researched it a little bit too to find out, like, was this made up? Is it true? And yeah, it was made up. There weren't Tartars in the forest at that time. That's not how they travel. And I mean, a whole bunch of things. His co-pilot didn't actually die. So people fictionalize their lives. He really fictionalized his life. I don't think that's what most marketers mean when they say tell your story, right? They don't mean make up your own story, but you can make up your own story, and that doesn't mean to lie. You don't have to do exactly what he did, but you can tell other stories. You can tell different kinds of stories. They could be stories from books you've read. They could be stories of things that happen to other people that you know, or something that you'd like to see happen. But memorable stories, weird stories, crazy stories are very helpful. Um, so I hope this video helps you think of what those stories might be for you. They could even be stories of trauma, right? But that's difficult to share. I don't think that that's easy to share, or necessarily beneficial to share. You have to be pretty brave and frame it pretty well to share a story of kind of of great trauma. but and it's also, you know, hard for other people to hear. It's triggering and all of that. But crazy stories, weird stories, um, that's great. You know, that's what dealers use to sell artists' work. That's what's memorable. And there are, you know, many stories out there that I'm sure you've heard about other artists, right? Just think for a minute. What other artists do you know that have told interesting stories, or what kind of, you know, mythological stories? And I don't mean actually, you know, a myth, but or that it's mythological, but a story that you've heard about an artist that perhaps is no longer living. That's sort of legendary. Like, you know, did they do that, or did that happen, or wow, that was incredible. You know, again, weird, crazy stories can be very beneficial to the sharing of your work and your message and what you're trying to give to the world. So I hope this is helpful. Again, if you have any comments, suggestions for other topics, questions, don't hesitate to comment. And if you're a member of Praxis, this video, along with other tools in the vault, has access to a new list of collectors as well as a new Art World report. For everyone else, thanks for watching. And if you are interested in being a Praxis member, there's links here below. Otherwise, I wish you well in your studio practice, and thanks for watching.